these bees. It's been a while since we've done the last video. We've extracted honey. We introduced a new queen into a hopelessly queenless colony, which is a term of a colony that doesn't have any hopes of queening themselves. There's no eggs, anything like that. We brought a swarm. We put some honey, a honey box on that, a honey super. So we're gonna go through a whole bunch of stuff. So today's video is gonna have a whole bunch. I just wanna start off by saying that the Facebook group, since we sold honey, has grown by like over 100 members. So I really appreciate that. I'll have a video right now of the honey that we produced. We did it in 2 pound, 1 pound, 8 ounce, and I think it's a 4 or 5 ounce glass jar. I sold out all my honey. I made 3 times as much as I did last year in poundage. Those sold out again. So again, I really appreciate that. Hopefully it's good. Make sure you check out the Facebook page. That's usually when I do updates if I'm selling honey. Hoping to get one more harvest this year. We're gonna do an inspection today, and hopefully we see that we're gonna have a little bit more. We probably won't get as much. So let's get started. Goldenrod is starting to come up. If you notice, I don't think I covered this yet. The same area that I caught this swarm, there was another swarm that we thought was going to move in, and they never moved in, but there was probably about 150 to 200 bees. And it just so happened that as I was going to my parents' cabin, there was a guy on the way that was selling a queen bee. I thought that both of my hives over here, that they were going to be queenless. Well, sure enough, I get this queen bee and I open up the hives, and both of them have successfully requeened themselves. So I was stuck with a queen bee and nowhere to put her. So I called up my friend. I said, hey, are those bees still in that trap? He said, yep. So I went out there, I got them. I put the queen bee into this hive. I grabbed a frame of brood from 2 different hives that had the nurse bees. Now the nurse bees aren't real aggressive and they'll accept a lot of different queens. So I'm really trying to grow this hive before fall. If it gets strong enough, we'll try to overwinter it. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll try and use this hive as a resource for some of these other hives. So let's get this open. I've had a little bit of ant problems on this hive. Let's just see what they're doing. The ants really aren't bothering the bees a whole lot. And man, if you want to come close, I actually see a pile of bees in here, meaning that I think my first hatch is coming out. Let's take a look. I also noticed that maybe the bees are fighting off the ants that were in here. And this looks really good. Again, this was a colony started with 1 queen, about 200 bees, and a frame or 2 of food and emerging brood. So let's just take a peek really quick and let's see what they're doing in here. Frame that was in the swarm trap. So let's take a look. I see a little bit of brood. And look at this. So they're starting to store. I see a lot of brood over here. So the fact that they're storing nectar, they're getting food. I'm just seeing if the queen is on here. So again, they were a very small colony. I just feel like she should be over here. But this is really good. And now that I see that the goldenrod is starting to come in, there's going to be a nectar source. And we'll see how fast they can grow. I'm a little skeptical on how much they can grow before winter, but we also were able to save quite a bit of bees, I think. Let's take a look over here. All right, well, in typical beekeeping fashion with kids, as soon as we got down here and started working, I was notified that my daughter had filled her diaper, so we had to take a little break. This hive is interesting. I don't know if it's because the queen was stressed or what, but I found her in there. I didn't see any eggs. There's a lot of bees. I don't know if it was just the brood that hatched out that looked like there was some fresh brood, but she's in there. She's still working, so we'll see what comes of that in there. We're gonna move on to this next one. This is the swarm that I caught. If you look back on a couple of my videos, you'll see where I caught it. this hive has just been really, really good. They drew out new comb. And what I did is after I had got done extracting a whole bunch of honey, this was a wet super that I put on. Now here in Wisconsin, we're towards the end of it, but we're still in nectar flow. I would never put a wet super on if we were in a dearth period. That's a good way to get robbed out or to really ruin your hives. So we're in a nectar flow. I put the wet super back on. So let's take a look and see what we're working with. Matt, why don't you come on close? And let's crack the lid. Ooh, I see a lot of bees. I see some good propolis getting built out. Let's see what they're doing in this honey. Usually the queen will make it over, but they were queenless. Just take a look real quick to make sure the queen isn't up here. These are really nice and calm bees. I don't see her on there. Again, it would be really unlikely that she'd be there. But let's see what they've done now with this box of, essentially, it was a wet super. Let's see what they're doing here. So this was full. It was extracted out. And you can see here those lines in there, that's from my extractor. And it doesn't look like they've started to fill yet. It also looks like, oh, there's a brand new bee right here. Look how nice and fuzzy this one is. That is a freshly emerged bee. So let's check a little bit more towards the center. Ooh, I feel a little bit of weight here. So it looks like they're storing a little bit of nectar and some pollen. And I see something interesting here too. You take a look at this. I don't know if that's a queen cup or a drone cell. So let's take a look and see what's going on down below. Things down. Propolis is essentially tree saps or tree resins. Frames out. Let's take a look here. That's all. My goodness. That is all brood. What a queen. This was purchased out at Let It Be in Greenville. And look at this. Right there. That's like a cover shot. This hive is about to explode. So I'm going to keep an eye on this hive. And if I have a hive that maybe needs a little bit of assistance, because this hive is absolutely crazy. We saw some bees that were emerging. Let's see if we can find the frame that the bees are emerging from. I see some drone cells down below. Those are the real bumpy ones. The white stuff, this is all honey. And that's what you want to see. You want to see that nice circular pattern. The brood is in the middle. You have a lot of times food and resources here. And then you have the honey on the outside. So these are all the baby bees, female bees. Let's see what the other side looks like. So, a lot of honey. And I bet you it's our next frame that's emerging out. A little bit ornery here. This is almost all honey. Just seeing if I see her in there. They're starting to get a little runny. Oh, look at this. Look at that. Another beautiful frame of brood. We're gonna button these guys back up. I don't want to mess with them too much. This is an absolutely strong, strong colony. So they have a lot of room in their honey super. That's already drawn out. If we get a good fall nectar flow with the goldenrod, they're gonna have no trouble filling this box right up in no time. All right, so this is the hive that if you bought honey from me, this is the hive that you probably got it from. I extracted 5 full boxes, 5 full mediums from this hive alone. So this one was left on the hive. I had 6 of them on here. This was a wet super that we put back on. So let's see what we're working with. Hopefully this is full. This metal here, that's a queen excluder. That keeps the queen down here so she doesn't go up here and lay eggs. So all you get up here is storage. We had some storms move through. I like to always button my hives up. Might be overkill. Let's take a look. Oh my goodness. I might be going up. Come on over and take a look at this, Matt. I might be going up to get another super because this hive is a bunch of freaks. The term worker bee was probably coined off of this hive. Let's take a look. Let's see what they've done so far. So this box on top, try not to pop them too bad. That's the propolis holding it down. Let's set this down here. I want to make sure we'll smoke them down. Let's see what they've done. This was a wet super that got put on. So they've cleaned out, presumably cleaned out all the nectar and honey. And it looks like they're starting to store. You look at that, if it hits the sun just right, you can see the nectar in there. So they're backfilling this again. So they have plenty of room here. And based on that population, I'm not even going to go into this brood chamber. At this time of year, they were queen right, the population's good. That hive kind of breathe a little bit. All right, so this is the one that I have the Ross Rounds box on. And this is the hive that historically just hasn't done much. I kind of call it my lazy hive. So they requeen themselves, this hive swarm. I did not catch the swarm, unfortunately, but they successfully requeen themselves. So this is, when I had purchased that other queen, this was the hive that it was going to go to. I went down in there, and sure enough, I found a whole bunch of fresh eggs and larvae. So here's again a wet frame that was put on, completely cleaned out, and they're not storing in here yet. So let me put this back. I see some propolis in here. It doesn't look like they are drawing it out yet. Take a look at that at the end of the year. I just don't see them drawing it out a whole lot. Let's see how this queen's doing. And looks like she's made her way up. Let's see if we can see her. There's a queen cell that was torn down, obviously because they have requeened themselves. All right, this is looking good in here. I'm just seeing what they're all doing. This is drawn out. I'm not really storing or doing a whole lot of anything with this one. I took a frame of brood out of this the other day when I gave it to that hive over there, the single brood box. But if you take a look at this one too, they're storing some food here. Again, this is the second box. You see where they're starting to move the honey up, maybe backfill a little bit. So let's put this back on and let's just take a look in the bottom. You don't have to go far, it's okay. So let's take a look here. A lot of drones, a lot of stored pollen, which means that the next frame over, you look here, here's another queen cell that's torn open on the bottom. That queen that emerged would have came back and she would have tore open and stung all of the other queens that were in there because there's only one queen bee per hive. All right, here's where I really want to see. I see it feel nice and light, which is good. See a little bit of brood around the edges. Okay, I don't see the queen on that one. Let me go over one more. I'd like to see some eggs and larvae. Very good brood pattern, some pollen in there. Look at that. That is exactly what we want to see. I don't see the queen. Look good. Smoke them down. Squeeze these back together. Okay, so this hive looks good. We buttoned it back up. I did move the drawn out honey super down. I moved the Ross Rounds up. I don't think they're going to do anything with that. If they are going to bring in any nectar in the next 3 to 4 weeks before we really start winter preparation, they'll store it in here. This one, I think this one was almost full of honey, but they weren't capped over yet. So I want to see how this one's doing. And they're exploding at the top. Matt, you want to get a little shot of that? Look at that propolis ring. Some bees will create more propolis than others. As a commercial beekeeper, it can become really a headache. So you'll see some commercial keepers actually target bees that don't create as much propolis. Others don't mind. Again, I don't have a queen excluder on this one. And I see some faces in there. I see a couple cells that have some nectar in it, so they're starting to store. Yeah, this is still pretty light, so we'll see. We will have more honey. They're starting to cap all that over, starting to cap all that. Obviously, oh yeah, it's not full, but there's honey in there. Just saying, I wouldn't ever leave these hives open this long if there was a dearth. The dearth just means that there's no flowers or anything producing nectar or pollen, so they get real protective. That's why bees in the fall are not as nice as bees in the spring, because they're doing what they do, is they're protecting their house and all their resources. So this is all honey. I won't extract this. This is the bees' honey because it's in the brood chamber. I'll also estimate this and determine if they have enough of this honey to get them through winter. If not, I'll leave them honey behind, and I'll also supplement a little bit of feed. Okay, I see food in there. I see a couple pieces of, looks like a couple little emergency cells. Not worried about those. Just like that. Look at that. Brand new queen. This hive requeened themselves. This was not a purchased one, which means that the hive created a queen cell. The queen emerged. The queen went on a mating flight, took care of all the other queens. And look at her pattern. So this is a hive that I absolutely want to ensure I try and overwinter, because this would be great for splits or even grafting, just from their bloodlines, if you will. Just like they do with dogs and horses, you want to try and promote those really good characteristics. Let's see if she has another frame of, look at that. I even have to watch this because you see over on the left-hand side, over here, this is all drone brood. That's the real bumpy stuff. This is all honey, and this is all worker bee brood. Let's see if we can find her. I don't see her. This is laid. Let me go one more frame over. These are starting to get a little bit rambunctious here. They're not attacking, but again, this hive is always deceptive because they get really flighty. So this is the one I just took out. Let me just go one over here. There's a lot of bees in here. And that was it. If you look at me here, we're gonna button them up. All right, we're done messing with you. Aggressive. This hive is just really, really flighty. All right, so this time of year, as you can see, it gets a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit harder, at least for me, to work with the bees. We saw there was brood. Now that just means that within the last, I would say 15 probably days, the queen was in there. I would have liked to have seen eggs and larvae, but I'm pretty certain that there's a queen in these two hives over here. This one, there's brood in here. There's not signs that they swarmed, but I guess I don't really know. The nice part is by having that strong hive over there, two strong hives over here, if we needed for them to requeen themselves, there's still time. I can still purchase a queen. These boxes up on top, I don't know if they're going to produce a whole lot more of honey. I see quite a bit of goldenrod coming up. That can sometimes produce quite a bit. So we'll see where that goes. Otherwise, going into winter, these will be taken off as long as they have enough honey in here. If they need more honey, I'll leave one of these boxes on. Otherwise, we'll also supplemental feed. We're also going to begin, once all the honey supers are off, treating for mites. And that's I'm gonna use oxalic acid. I have an oxalic acid vaporizer. That's why I think I lost my colonies last year, was due to a mite load on that. So we'll test for mites. We'll treat for mites if necessary. We won't just treat frivolously we'll make sure that, yes, if we need to treat, we will. Other than that, if you made it this far, please consider liking, subscribing to this channel. Hopefully by next year, I just put out a post. Maybe we're gonna have a few more hives as well. So again, this is central Wisconsin, Fox Cities area that we're running these hives. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next time.